right, welcome to the Solution Point, where we talk about solutions for your business, your life, and the law. And to greet you guys today, I have my co-host, Catalina Dickerson, my better half.
Hi, everybody.
And our guest today is Linda Vega, and she is a fantastic immigration attorney. One of the things I have to say about her, and it's one of the things that unfortunately most attorneys don't do, is she returns your calls and she does it quickly. So that's one of the reasons why I think she's a great attorney, regardless of whatever practice area she may have. But she's an immigration attorney and she really knows her stuff. So Linda, in the Solution Point, we talk about different kinds of solutions. So why don't you share with us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us about the solutions that you want to share.
Oh, good. Well, thank you for having me on your great show. My name's Linda Vega. I'm an immigration attorney based in Houston, Texas, although we practice nationally and internationally because immigration law is a federal law. So we're able to practice in all various states and help people with their immigration solutions and businesses with their immigration problems with their workers and even family members who might be looking at deportation or something like that. I've been practicing law since 1991. That's a long time. But I started out with finance in international law, and I went one summer and volunteered on the border in Harlingen for immigration law, and I was hooked, helping families and learning more about ways people can come into the United States and invest and help the economy and their family find a better life. So I started working in immigration since then. And I've been in Houston since 1998. I meant to stay 2 years, and here I am, still in Houston. But I'm a Texas.
Where did you originally? Where are you from? If not from Houston, where originally?
I grew up in the Valley, down by Mercedes and Harlingen, and so that's really my area. I went to school there. I went to UT undergrad, and then I went off to DC to study international financing, and I stayed there for a very long time, and eventually made my way back to Texas. And once you're a Texas girl, you just can't seem to leave. So we've been here in Houston since then. So I own my own firm. We're looking to expand into Colorado in the next few months. So we'll have another base there. We get a lot of cases from there. So.
Well, tell us about an immigration solution that you have. I know we get a lot of our clients, especially business clients, have, and you and I have met with a lot of clients that we have in common on the different solutions. And there's a lot of confusion and misunderstanding of what can you do, what do you need to do to be able to be in the United States legally.
Right. And if you look at immigration, like business immigration, like a big pyramid, on the top are investor visas that people can invest into the United States for $1 million or sometimes less. So investor visas are the most coveted because they're like a monorail fast track to a green card. Usually companies coming from Europe or South America like to invest in businesses. So they invest a minimum of $100,000, let's say. So that's an investor visa. However, those investor visas, you have to have a treaty with the United States in order to qualify. If you don't have a treaty, the only option is what's called an EB-5 or $1 million plus investor. Countries like Venezuela and Vietnam and some other countries, they can only invest large amounts of money. People coming from Mexico, of course, there's various ways to invest into the United States, one of them being the investor visa, minimum about 80 to 100,000. Then we have situations where the company in Mexico or South America or Europe might have their parent company. and they want to create another company in the United States. So we're able to transfer workers to and from the companies with much ease. So there's different ways investing and forming new companies where people can obtain worker visas. That's one area.
And this is a worker visa, not so much as a track to citizenship, but we're talking about a track to just having a worker visa. Is that clear? Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, certain investment visas become green cards or legal permanent residence. These particular ones, like the $1 million plus, that will turn into a green card.
Okay.
Other smaller investments, like the E2 investment, the investor visa, what's called the E2 and E1, treaty visa, investor visa, those will never become green cards. So you have to change status to something else or create a company. Like I said, if you want to create a company in the United States and then have that company petition you and maybe look down the road to 6 years to getting a green card.
Okay.
So there's just so many. If you think of immigration, there's visas A to Z. A being diplomat, and then you just go down the road, and it just depends on the type of visas. And it's a really complicated area of law because it changes with a memo, and you've got to be on track with that. So it's it's mind-boggling, but I guess it's a challenge that we immigration lawyers like. And immigration has this dichotomy. On one side, you've got business. On the other side, you've got family. In the middle, there's litigation, because both can go to litigation. So we handle both and litigation. So we're equipped to handle all of those things.
And you mentioned kind of having, being up to date on any updates, kind of having your ear to the ground. I just curious, what is your preferred method, or how do you, as you, Linda Vega, as an immigration attorney, I mean, you don't have to give your secrets away, right? But what are tactics or strategies you use to make sure that you're up to date? Are there particular, news feeds that you're looking at? Are you tapping into any, do they send you directly the memo? How does that work?
Absolutely. Great question. I belong to what's called AILA, American Immigration Lawyers Association. And they are the most up-to-date organization with respect to changes, going before Congress and asking for additional visas, how many visas are going to get distributed in October when Congress starts again. And we get our newsletter, and we belong to the organization. So we go online and we look into what the latest news is. Plus, they also have the latest precedent of court cases that are decided. During the administration with President Obama, we had a lot of executive orders that we constantly had to keep up with. And they were always sending us emails with what was closed, what's not. Last year, with the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, Department of Homeland Security would send a lot of memos to lawyers who were part of the USCIS or Immigration Services protocol.
There's a clear partnership, and so that's working. That's great to hear.
Yeah, and we just get inundated though. There are just some days that for example, right now, this court is closed in Seattle because they need to clean it because of COVID contamination. Here in Houston, it was our court here yesterday. And so we get these bulletins that let us know. And right now, for much of litigation, we're doing exactly how we're communicating. This is how we're holding courts now.
Yeah.
And it's impersonal and I don't know, ineffective sometimes depending on the case. So
Linda, let me kind of bring the topic to something that is very near to a lot of my clients, and it's I always screw up the numbers, but I think it's the B2 visas for the truck drivers.
The H-2Bs.
Okay.
The H-2Bs, and they're like season. Those particular visas are seasonal visas.
Okay.
And they're good for 10 months out of the year. And those visas are usually for seasonal workers who work in recreational parks, hotels, trucking. and you can solicit 1 to 99 workers on one application.
Okay.
It's the I-129 application. And let's say the company, the trucking company, or the hotel needs 50 workers for 10 months. So we apply, we get the 50 workers, they come inside the United States with their work visa, work, and then at the 10 months, they have to leave and reapply the following year. And so those are coveted visas, and there are not a lot of them. So a lot of these big companies get first dibs sometimes.
Right. So we have a lot of clients who have the truckers that are Mexican truckers, and they're able to drive here. There's certain restrictions. My understanding is they can only pick up a load in Mexico, deliver it. They can bring back from the same location, but they can't triangulate and pick up somewhere else.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so those, how lengthy is the process to get those applications?
Usually if we blanket them, and this is why I tell a lot of the clients, make sure that you have your workers. Even if you think you might have 40, but really 30, apply for the maximum. It's usually about 6 to 7 months.
Okay.
6 to 7 months to obtain the visa and get all the workings and done. What we need from the applicants and from the company who's sponsoring them is name, date of birth, any recent or previous deportations, and criminal record, because we need to put that on the application. And ultimately, the applicant's fingerprints will detail everything for us. So we ask them, please be honest with us, because then we have to backtrack and make excuses on the application, and it might be denied because we give false information. So, and pretty much I tell the owners of the companies, give me this information and I'll tell you who qualifies based on our experience. That way we don't get the whole application disqualified and rejected.
Right. And I guess that's the key there is getting the application just right before it goes in, and having that experience of, look, this is going to be a red flag. And if you want to be sure it's going to pass, we need to maybe take this person out because they've got this questionable issue in their record.
Right. And it used to be, this is how, when I was a baby lawyer, I would see all these lawyers getting what's called an RFE, request for evidence. And I would think, oh no, you don't want to get one of those. And the more I learned and worked for these big law firms, they loved those because they could charge the clients more money for it. But we hardly get any RFEs because I tell my clients, I'm really strict. I don't want to do this again. I don't want to answer questions. And so we hardly get any RFEs, and I'm glad for that because it saves the client time and money, and it saves me time and money that I can do other things with other clients. So
and it makes it seem like you're selling blinker fluid.
Yes.
Oh.
Something like that, yeah. But
okay.
yeah, no, we're pretty strict on that, and one of the other things that I mentioned is a lot of families, very middle class and upper middle class families from all over the world, want to send their children to study in the United States. And we tell them the best thing for them to do is apply for a visa. And in the last few years, a student visa, F1 visa, was very difficult to obtain because of the many changes. But there's something else called a vocational visa. It's an M visa. And right now, because we need so many medical workers, getting an M visa and vocational nursing assistant school or X-ray technicians, we are very low in the United States, and we encourage students from other countries to come in and get a vocational medical degree that would allow them the same thing. Once they get their M visa studies finished, they can apply for an H-1B, or a hospital can sponsor them. And so they're able to stay here longer, and it works out great. Most people think they have to come with a regular F student visa, but there are other options that they can do
Right. And
as well.
I was listening to the Wall Street Journal probably a month or so ago.
Hmm.
They were talking about how some of those visas for students may be in jeopardy
Hmm.
because it's, well, are we going to have in-person classes or not? And if we don't have
Correct.
in-person classes, why do you need to be in the country? So
Exactly.
I guess that also, puts things up in the air for these people who are wanting to go to school here but don't know if classes are going to
Right.
make in person.
Exactly. And those are for students who are not studying STEM, science, technology, engineering, and medicine. So for those students who are studying STEM, they still need to come to the United States, and they have the best chance of not only going to school, but getting a worker visa that leads to a green card. So it works out. You just have to strategize and coordinate it just right with respect to, sometimes it's like playing chess. You
Right.
got to be two steps ahead.
So
Right.
I can imagine, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
but I can imagine these are details that you really need to kind of, find out about. So when you meet a client,
Hmm.
how much, do you have, I guess, like your strategy to get as much information as possible so that way you can develop your strategy for this person?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have a 2-page intake sheet.
Okay.
And from that intake sheet, I know a lot of lawyers have 6, 8 pages, but I've, you know, uh,
But
lessened it to 2 pages
and I'll tell
where
you why it helps you to have 2 pages, because if you give them 6, they never will turn it in.
exactly. But on those 2 pages, it's exactly what I need to look at in order to say, okay, not eligible for this, eligible for this. And it's quick. Even my staff now can look at that and say, okay, this is a business visa or no visa at
Right.
all. And
Yeah.
so
It's almost
it's
like
worked
putting a
out.
pair of specific glasses on. When
Correct.
you look at the page with the glasses on, you're like, woo, you can hone in on your strategy, right?
Right. Yes. And it works out perfect. Even with the business visas, 2 pages, I will find out what it is that they need, and we move faster that way. So it works out.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the keys is the efficiency.
And I guess, as you get older, less is better, you know? You write less, that's, get to the point. Even my briefs, they're 5 pages to 15 pages max. Get to the point.
I think
Uh,
I heard somewhere, and I've heard it from a few different sources, where it said, if I sent you a 2-page letter, but if I had more time, I would have gotten it down to 1 page.
yes. Tell me, get to the point, get to the specifics. Sort of like when kids ask you, Mom, can I have this? Get to the point. What do you need?
Yeah.
Time's a wasting. So yeah, but it's an enjoyable job. I mean, I really enjoy practicing immigration. I don't think I could practice anything else. I've looked into other things, and I just, it's
Yeah. You
some
found your
people,
niche.
yeah, some people fit exactly where they're supposed to be, and it's great. I've enjoyed it in all these years. At some point, um, it becomes routine. So it's nice that these administrations come in and set you on fire and set you on your feet there for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, the green card. I think,
Mhm.
I think that a green card is something that is like this mythical thing that you get. But, what does it entitle you? What does it mean? What can you do if you have a green card, and what can't you do?
Mm. So the reason it's called a green card, interestingly enough, back in the 50s and 60s, it was actually a green card. And when they started during the Eisenhower, and the workers would come here, they would get a bland brownish card. But those who had a green card They could stay in the United States forever. Thus, that's where it got its name, the green card. If you got the green card, you were not, just a visitor. You were a member of the club, like the American Express.
Right.
So that's kind of where it got its name back in the 60s and 50s with the workers that came through. And it was little, if any, paperwork during that time. You could just, bracero, that's what they were called, the workers that would come and do labor in the fields in the United States. And now there's two ways. Remember, I said the business and the family side. So on the business side, you have to be a worker and hold a worker visa, or be an investor, like $1 million investor, where eventually you get to that green card. And that's a legal permanent resident. And most countries have residency in their country if you invest a lot of time, or you have a relative. If you have a parent who's a U.S. citizen or a legal permanent resident with their green card, there's certain requirements that you can meet as a child to be able to get that green card. Or if you marry someone who's a U.S. citizen, you get to that green card very fast, which opens a door to a lot of fraudulent marriage schemes that go and happen in the country. But once you get that green card, it's like winning the lottery for a lot of people. Why? Because you are one step closer to becoming a U.S. citizen. But here's what it gives you. It gives you the ability to work and live in the United States. You pay taxes. You can stay and live in the United States all year. And it gives you a quiet, I guess, comfort. A lot of people are still with their green cards from the amnesty program because they don't want to learn English, or they were afraid to pass the exam, or they just never got around to it. But when you hold a green card, here's what it can also cause. It can cause people to get deported, because if you get accused of a crime, it puts you immediately in deportation proceedings. Immediately. And then you have to, it's like, you're innocent until you're not, or proven otherwise. With a green card, if you're accused of a felony crime, you're guilty until you're proven innocent. If you leave the country for more than 180 days out of the year, you relinquish your green card. So you have to live in the United States for minimum 6 months, 180 days. You cannot vote. You're restricted on who you can apply for next in line for family. There is question about whether or not you can, if you do have crimes with your green card, whether it's a DUI, DWI, or a petty shoplifting, it questions your moral character so that you can never apply for U.S. citizenship. So there's a lot of things that you are restricted with your green card, but it's also the coveted green card, because again, it's one step away from citizenship where everyone wants to be.
My grandfather, he became a U.S. citizen by helping out the U.S. Army. And he was in Monterrey, and of course he gained his citizenship. And because he was a citizen, my mother and all of her family that was born in Monterrey were citizens upon birth. Does that happen anymore? Is that a time of the old ages? I mean, because you mentioned either work or family, but is there any recent time that that's been revived again?
So what your grandfather had, or was what's called derivative citizenship, meaning because he had it, it passed on to the family and so it has changed along the way.
I think he got it because he served in the army, and
right.
And as a result of serving in the army and making it out the other end, he was given citizenship.
Yeah, no, we tried to do that, or it was attempted with the DACA, the dreamers, the young dreamers who joined the military. And many of them were not even given the green card. They were told that was a mistake. Memos came out, and it was a mess. Derivative citizenship, we have a very famous senator who was born in Canada but was able to run for senator and US president. And there was a question of what, if he's born in Canada, what makes him a citizen? Very interesting question. Well, the law at that time when he was born said if your mother is a US citizen and you're born out of wedlock, you are a US citizen. But if both his parents, if they had been married, he would not have been a US citizen. So it's a minor detail that the laws have for derivative citizenship, and they protect unwed mothers more than they did, a married couple. And now if, let's say, an undocumented or an immigrant gets married to a US citizen, the child may or may not have citizenship, depending on whether they were married, whether they applied, whether it's just factors that it's like a little roadmap you have to build. But if it's an unwed US citizen mom, the child is a US citizen. Interesting, huh?
Very.
It's almost like immigration doesn't condone marriage because you don't get a lot of benefits if you're married. You have to go try extra hard to prove that you're a US citizen born to unwed parents. Crazy. We got to change that. It's a little antiquated. Yeah.
Is anybody, are you bending anybody's ear? What are we, if it's something that needs to be changed, how does that get changed?
Sure. I mean, those are good. That's a really good question. There are a couple of things that I almost promote couples from getting married. For example, if a green card holder mother got her residency through her father, she has to stay unmarried if her visa is not available. Let's say someone from Mexico. The father, who is 30 something, applies. The child is 17, but their visa is not available. They go into their 20s. The visa is not available because it takes 20 years or so to get there. She doesn't get married because if she gets married, she loses that application. She meets someone, lives with them, have children, but they still can't get married because her visa is not available. And so it just goes down to, if you get married and you have your green card through your green card holder parent, you lose your place in line. So it's better to stay unwed and just live with someone. Yeah. So it promotes these awful habits that now have become the norm. The other thing is we give green cards. We give merits to people who can show us that their undue hardship requires that they get their green card. For example, if a US citizen gets married to someone and they want to sponsor them and they're overseas and they need a waiver sometimes, you have to show that you're in the bad circumstance in order to get that waiver, to get that green card, and you almost become dependent on the US government coming into the United States, right? So it's promoting this awful system of hardship and having a low threshold of merit instead of rewarding them because they want to go to school, they have a job, things of that sort that they can contribute to the economy. We reward them for being in the worst possible situation, which is sending an awful message about immigration.
And so it's a big, I guess it's a reverse bell curve.
Yes.
It's the people who are on who are in need are promoted to stay in need, and we'll let you in. Or if you have $1 million, we'll let you in, and we'll get you to your green card faster. Correct. But the people in between, who are the ones that in all reality are going to be doing the jobs that we need, that our people aren't wanting to do.
Absolutely.
The working in the hotels, the truck driving. I know truck drivers, the average age right now is over 50. So we're, you
55.
know, we're
Yeah.
those people are going to age out at some point if we don't get more young people. And so that's where we
Correct.
got to fill in the blanks. Medicine, same thing. We have a lot of
Yeah.
foreign nurses and doctors.
Right.
But you know, unless you have those things, if somebody just wants to come in and say, hey, look, I want to bootstrap myself and start a business, but I don't have $1 million to start a business. That's why I'm coming here because I can, there's a
Right.
land of opportunity. You know, there's not an opportunity unless you're dependent on the government.
Correct.
And then the opportunities you have to stay dependent are all illegal, because
Correct.
you're either hiding your income or you're doing things that are illegal, and which income isn't something you can easily declare.
Correct.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And I often tell my clients this, and I have a radio show here in Houston where I tell them, look, you are not criminal. So if you stop thinking that way, you'll stop getting in that circle of criminality. Start to think of yourselves as investors. You've come into the country, you've bought a house, a truck, you've started a business, you have a job, you've put your kids through school, you pay taxes, you're investing. So protect that investment and, get legal, do it, find some way. But when they constantly hear, oh, they're criminals because they came here illegal, they stay in that mindset.
Yeah.
And they become like living in the shadows or living in underground doing criminal activity. So I thought for a while the mentality changed in a lot of people's minds because they were investors. At first they thought it was funny. It's like, yeah, I don't have $1 million. But if you really look at what they spend in this country, they're investors. Let's do it right. Let's create a system that gives you a work visa and puts you to work where you pay taxes just like everyone else.
Yeah.
And there's a sense of dignity and pride people start to get.
Yeah.
So
What's your
yeah.
radio show called in Houston?
We used to be on a station called La Ranchera. We've now switched to 94.7 on Sunday mornings, 8 a.m. here in Houston. And it's called El Norte.
Okay.
So we, again, and when I started doing the citizenship drive, it was to promote people to become citizens, because there were so many people who were not citizens. And in Texas alone, 150,000 people were green card holders, just sitting by the fence watching, the tumbleweed go by. And so we began this campaign to, be part of America, or you're going to lose that opportunity. And
the sad part is you're still at such high risk that you just need one little mishap.
Exactly.
And they don't even have to prove that you're guilty. It could
Correct.
be that they pull you over and they make you do a field sobriety test, and you've been driving for a long time and you're tired and maybe you're a little older and your balance isn't quite as well, or you're out of shape and you failed a field sobriety test.
Yeah.
And they've got you on video. Well, now all of a sudden you're on the deportation train, and it could be that you get exonerated, but now you've got two criminal cases that you're fighting. You've got the deportation, and then you've got the DUI.
Yeah, and I tell resident holders, be very careful, because there's state law and federal law. I have this one case that stays in my mind now, 5 years later. This green card holder, great family man, 5 daughters, wife. He worked at a refinery. One day he barters with a friend of his. The friend gives him a TV for some woodwork he did. Well, he decides he doesn't need a TV. He takes it to the pawn shop. Lo and behold, the TV's stolen.
Oh, no.
He gets arrested, and they give him probation. He's off. So he's got a green card, and he goes and applies for citizenship. 2-3 lawyers later, and then me, the wife comes to me and says, why did they come knock on our door and take my husband? Well, in federal law, receipt of stolen property is an aggravated felony. And they took his green card away. We had to readjust him with the wife. Very simple thing that gets overlooked. Even the judge was like, what's going on here? But if you read the regs, aggravated felony. So we adjusted him. And even the judge told him it was the shortest trial I've ever had. It was 10 minutes. We were able to offer all this evidence and the judge right away granted it. But he told him, in 5 years, become a citizen. Unfortunately, when you apply for citizenship, if you have an aggravated felony, you will never, ever become a citizen. And even with the waiver, it was just so sad. And simple things like that really change your life.
Wow.
Just a television.
And he had no intention. There was who would have even thought about that?
Exactly. So one little course and he will stay a resident forever, and he can't get clearance.
They have to be very more on top of everything.
Correct.
You have to be extremely sharp.
Yeah.
Wow.
Little things like that really change the course of people's lives.
All right. Well, as we get closer to the end of our time, Linda, one of the things that we like to look at is different. Gosh, the word just dropped out of my head, Kat. What
core value.
Core values. Yes. I have my extra brain here. So so we always want to cover our core values that our guests have. And so what core value would you share with us today?
Core value with respect to life, with respect to what we just talked about.
Kind of in respect to, a value that maybe you use when you
any
hire a team member. Yeah, it's something that you set up when you need to make a decision, and you place it on your core value, and it helps you make a decision.
I think something that you touched on, Michael, I always return phone calls because it's the integrity of someone's reputation, someone's attention. Even if it's just a friend, return that phone call, return that text. It shows respect. It shows you care. It shows that you are really engaged with that individual, even if you've met them once. Somehow it gives that person the importance. And usually when I answer the phone, I say, "Hey, how are you?" People say, "Oh my goodness, you sound like you're so glad to hear from me." I am. It's just that part of the integrity of follow through with things. It really gives you self-respect, following through and gaining that other person's respect, more importantly. Yeah. So I guess that would be my core value.
That's a great core value. And, would you say, I'm happy to hear from you. Yes, because I don't have to chase you down.
Yes. Yeah.
You called me, I called you, we're returning calls, it's all good.
Yeah.
It's
and even if your schedule's busy, I know Michael and I play phone tag sometimes, but at least we're trying.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we're trying to reach
and I think that we could expand that, and that's been my experience with you is integrity. And integrity is you do what you say, as opposed to, oh yes, blah blah blah, and I'm giving you lip service, but in the meantime I have no intention of doing whatever I just told you that I was going to do.
Yeah.
And so walking the walk and talking the talk. That's such a great core value in everything you do in life.
Exactly.
Not just in business.
Exactly. Yeah. It seeps into other areas of your life. Yeah. So if you don't follow through, it shows.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, thank you, Linda. And
thank you guys so much.
Yeah. And how does someone get a hold of you? And of course, we'll put that in the description, and also your radio show.
Yeah, so we have our website, the Vega Law Firm. I'm in Houston. Look me up, Linda Vega. I'm easy to find in Houston. They can call our office. Can I give my phone number?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, 713-784-5252.
And we'll
and
put a link.
schedule a,
We'll put it in.
an
We'll put
appointment.
it in the description below.
Great. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
guys so much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Linda. Again, thank you very much for watching or listening, however you're experiencing the Solution Point. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit subscribe, like, and give us some good feedback. And thank you. And we'll be seeing you and talking to you next time.
Bye, everybody.